About when the mall was being built. So I've been here quite a while. I do see an old friend in the room, and I just want to do a shout out to Linda Monroe. Linda, you want to wave? Where's Linda? There she is. Linda and I served on the same city council for many, many years. She was a wonderful council person and a wonderful person. And I just wanted to give her a shout out. The Historical Society was formed in 2008. It was actually the brainchild of Don Kiselewski Sr. He put a board of people together. I was on that board originally. I stepped off for many years, and when I retired from city council, I got back on the board. It's a wonderful organization. We care about the city. We look after it, and we want to make everybody understand where we came from, because if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going, right? Anyway, thank you so much for being here. It's a great turnout. I am so excited to see all of you here, all of you voters, because we're going to be voting in March 10th. Some of you have already gotten your ballots, and if you haven't, you better check as to why you haven't, okay? But if you haven't, you make sure you will vote on March 10th, okay? This is a great group of people who are running. I am not endorsing anybody. They're all my friends. So let the debate begin. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
And one last little bit of housekeeping.
Thank you.
I believe they're handing them out at the back of the room, but we also wanted you to be aware of a website called Vote 411. Vote 411. It's where you can go and find information about all of the candidates for this race, as well as for upcoming races, the constitutional races in August, as well as the general election in November, will all be visible on this website. It's a real easy site to remember, vote411.org. Okay. And more information and handouts are available. So again, welcome to the Candidates Forum for the City of Palm Beach Gardens. Tonight we're going to hear from candidates for City Council seats 3 and 5. My name is Ken Thomas. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, and I'll be your moderator for the evening. For those of you not familiar with the League is a nonpartisan organization devoted to good government. We don't support nor do we oppose candidates or parties. We focus on issues, and tonight is about the issues. The League has been in operation in Palm Beach County since 1958, and in the United States for more than 100 years. It's our purpose for hosting tonight's event, as Amy mentioned earlier, to provide you with an opportunity to hear the candidates discuss issues that are of importance to you. And by doing so, we hope the information that you hear tonight will help you cast informed votes for the open city council seats. And oh yes, men have been involved or engaged in this work since 1972. So I'm not up here illegally. As a League member, though, I've had the opportunity to contribute in many ways to my community, my state, as well as national issues. I've been able to impact issues at all levels. If you're interested in finding ways that you can also contribute to your community and likewise, please pick up some information from the table on your way back, on your way out, if you haven't picked up information as you came in. Or you can visit our website for Palm Beach County. It's LWV, obviously for League of Women Voters, LWVPBC.org. LWVPBC.org. As you're aware, the powers and duties of the city government will have an impact on your residents, your business, your environment, your neighborhoods, your children's futures, and your daily life. And as such, the election of your city council members is an important responsibility that you own. So I thank you for inviting the League to moderate this event for you tonight. Your interest in hearing from the candidates is, before you cast your vote, is to be commended. I should have warned you coming into this. I'm going to talk for about 9 minutes. I've timed it several times, but it's important because I have to set the ground rules, and you want to hear the rules so that you'll understand how we're operating. The ground rules for the night is, first of all, this will be a forum and not a debate. In a forum, according to league rules, each candidate will answer each question. Responses are timed. There may or may not be a rebuttal, and questions come from you and the audience in writing. So we will not be yelling out or passing microphones around. The rules for tonight's forum have already been explained or reviewed with the candidates, but here's a brief recap for you. The candidates and their supporters are expected to conduct themselves appropriately. Disruptions take away from the opportunity for the audience to hear from the candidates. I ask for you to please hold your applause until the end of the forum, when you'll be able to applaud with gusto. I encourage each of the candidates to use the time to address the issues raised by you, the audience, their constituents. Speaking out of turn and other disruptions will not be tolerated. I'll ask that you please turn off your cell phones, or at least mute them. And that includes you in the audience. And I know you've heard that statement before at how many events that you've gone to. But, and invariably at those events, you always hear somebody's phone go off. Do you want to be the one that everyone turns to and look at when your phone go off? Okay, good. So please. Thank you. Okay. Where did I leave off now? Oh, yeah. So written questions for the candidates are being accepted from those of you in attendance tonight. And if you raise your hand, someone will pick up your index card from you and collect your question, and they'll bring them up here for me to read. For questions to be presented to the candidates, they may not be directed to one candidate only. All candidates must be able to answer the question. Questions may be combined or restated for clarity and relevance. So it's possible that your question may not be read as written because we change it to match up with several others. This is an educational event, and as such, it's not a political event, and so personal questions and attack questions will be disqualified. All questions submitted are reviewed and considered using these criteria that I just explained. To the candidates, I need you to know that the views expressed by the candidates are those of the candidate and not of the League of Women Voters. And as such, we're not endorsing any of the candidates or parties involved. So before I explain the format for tonight, let's offer a warm welcome and thanks to the candidates for their participation. Thank you. All candidates who met the criteria or met the qualification requirements have been invited to attend tonight's event. We want you to get to know them better, and by doing so, be able to cast an informed vote. We now ask the candidates to take a moment to introduce yourself. Please give your name and the office for which you are running. We're going to start in just a minute. Trust me. Please.
All right, we're good to go. I'm Heather Deichman. I'm running for Palm Beach Garden City Council, Group 3.
Hello, my name is David Levy. I'm also running for Palm Beach Gardens Group 3.
I'm Rochelle Litt, and I'm running for Palm Beach Garden City Council Group 3.
And I am Damien Murray, and I am running for Group 5 Palm Beach Gardens Council.
Thank you all.
You're the odd man out.
I also need to advise you that Ms. Middleton did send her deep regrets for not being able to attend tonight's event. She was invited but could not make it. Correct. So, I also want to offer thanks to the Palm Beach County Historical Society for their help and support with advertising and co-sponsoring. Palm Beach Gardens. Palm Beach Gardens Historical Society. I just need to slow down now and pay attention. For their help and support with advertising and co-sponsoring tonight's forum, and to thank you volunteers, both from the League of Women Voters as well as some from your local community who are helping to bring this forum to you tonight. And finally, let's review the format. The candidates are seated in front of you alphabetically by their last names from your left to your right. Each candidate will be given an opportunity to provide a 2-minute introduction starting from your left and moving alphabetically to the right. Candidates will be called upon alphabetically in order to answer your questions. A drawing was held before we started to determine who will answer the first question. And wouldn't you know it, Heather drew the high card. So the first question that we'll pose tonight will come from her. And she will have 1 minute to answer the question, and then the other candidates may answer the same question, again with a 1-minute time limit. Ups, and ups. Okay, so after the Q&A session, then we will have a 2-minute closing statement by each of the candidates. And for the closing statement, we will start from your right and move to your left. Are these rules all clear to everyone? So I'm trying to be fair, make sure everyone gets a chance to go first and at some point in time. So before we begin, why don't we all rise and do a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are we good?
I'm having issues with the memory card. I'm gonna ask John.
Seated in front of you are the timekeepers. Timekeepers, raise your lovely hands. Okay, and the timekeepers are also volunteers from the League of Women Voters, and they will time each of the sessions that we talked about. You will see a paddle that's raised when you have 1 minute remaining. Then you'll have a paddle that has 15 seconds remaining, and finally one that says stop when your time is over. I encourage you to watch the timekeeper for these alerts. The limits will be strictly observed, or you'll be interrupted. And candidates, I'm asking that you please try to remain quiet once your time is ended. I expect to have enough time to ask about 10 to 12 questions of each of the candidates tonight from you, the audience, as well as 2 of the questions that were posed by the Historical Society. And we know that there's never enough time to cover all of the issues in a limited time or setting such as this. If your questions are not addressed, feel free to contact the candidates immediately after the forum. I'm sure they'll hang around for a while and answer your question. Plus, you can reach them by phone or email. On that note, why don't we start with our opening statements? And with that, if you pass the microphone back down to Heather, and you have 2 minutes. And timekeepers, please.
Thank you so much to everyone for coming tonight. It's nice to have an engaged group of people. I wanted to start out by introducing myself. I am Heather Deichman, and everyone who has ever served started in the same place, ready to listen, ready to learn, and coming with some fresh ideas and new perspectives. And that's why I'm here. Healthy cities grow with fresh perspectives and thoughtful questions, and that is what I've been doing. For the last 20 months, I have sat in nearly every council meeting, learning every process, every piece of information that I could understand, and asking questions. That is what gets us to the next step or the next level in our city. Professionally, I'm an educator for 22 years. I've worked in education that entire time as a classroom teacher, but also as a program director. I run a business within a business. I have hundreds of employees. I have thousands of clients. I deal with budgets. I deal with compliments and complaints. I deal with customer service. I am here to help everybody by showing my deep commitment to the city. My campaign is rooted in clear priorities, strengthening accountability and transparency, supporting our attainable housing options so families and working residents can continue to live and work here, and of course protecting our green spaces, which is how I started. I'm here to hopefully help our community character remain the same as we watch our growth and our development continue.
Thank you. Before you start, I wanted to acknowledge a couple of people that walked in. One is former Mayor Joe Russo, and Matt Lane, a former councilman and our school board member here in District 1. Hi, my name is David Levy. You have a card, I gave that out to everyone. That's got all my information on it. One of the biggest issues that we're facing right now is traffic. And what I wanted to start, and first off, I want to acknowledge that everybody on this panel is against traffic. Nobody wants more traffic. So I think we're pretty safe on that count. But I want to talk about some of the things that I did personally to reduce traffic. One is that turn lane on North Lake and Military Trail. It's a right turn lane. It wasn't there before the CVS was developed. We got the developer to put that in. Something else that nobody probably remembers or even knows about is that Donald Ross Road ends at Jog Road, and it will never go any further because we got the right-of-way put into conservation. We rezoned the Waxahachie Slough, speaking of green space. We rezoned that to conservation. One of the fights we had when I was on the council was the Beeline Highway. They wanted to take that past where it stops now. We fought that, and that's a continuing fight. We cannot allow Beeline Highway to go further because what causes enormous traffic is urban sprawl. And anything that's past Beeline Highway with PGA Boulevard will just put more traffic on PGA Boulevard. So those are some of the things that we did to fight traffic. On North Lake Boulevard, we have that turn lane. We also did, when we worked with Avenir, we cut down the number of homes that they wanted by over half. A future council gave them some more homes. We also made them do the connection from Coconut over to Beeline Highway. So I've done a lot of things to help with the traffic down here, and now I have 15 seconds, so I guess I need to sit down.
Okay, so, good evening and thank you to the League of Women Voters and Palm Beach Gardens Historical Society for organizing this forum. I have been a League member for more than 20 years and a member of the Historical Society for 10. Thank you to the residents also who are here tonight because you care about the future of Palm Beach Gardens. My name is Rochelle Litt and I am running for Palm Beach Gardens City Council Group 3. Palm Beach Gardens has been my home for nearly 4 decades. It's where my husband, Dr. Jeffrey Litt, and I raised our family, where I built my career as a pharmacist and healthcare consultant, a 49-year career, and where I've devoted years of public service focused on protecting people, neighborhoods, and our quality of life. I previously served 6 years on the council, including 2 as vice mayor and a year as mayor, and it was one of the most challenging periods the city has faced. It was during COVID. We had rapid growth and increased demands on public safety, infrastructure, and services. Those years required steady leadership, careful decision-making, and a deep understanding of how the city actually works. I'm running again because integrity, experience, and current institutional knowledge matter, especially at a time when the city is growing so quickly and facing more complex pressures. This is not a city that benefits from on-the-job training. It requires leaders who understand how today's decisions affect public safety, your tax dollars, mobility, and neighborhood quality of life. During my previous service, I helped approve and implement 2 long-range planning tools that are just starting to be used: the mobility plan and the workforce housing plan, because traffic, safety, staffing, and quality of life are all connected. I also stayed actively engaged during the 3 years I've been off council, attending meetings and working with community and business leaders, remaining involved at the local, county, and regional levels. So my understanding is current, not dated. Tonight, my focus.
Good evening and thank you for being here tonight. My name is Damien Murray and Palm Beach Gardens is home for me and my family. I'm originally from Ireland and came to the United States in 1994 after earning a degree from Trinity College Dublin. Like many of you, I came to here to build a life, contribute and be part of a strong community. I met my wife here in Palm Beach Gardens and together we raised 3 daughters. They grew up on our fields, in our parks and in our neighbourhoods. And like so many families here, youth sports became a huge part of our lives. Professionally, I work as a sales executive for FedEx, but around town, most people know me as the soccer guy. For 17 years, I served as president and general manager of the local soccer club at District Park. What started as a sports program turned into something much bigger. Today, more than 3,000 kids participate in a safe, fun, inclusive environment where they can learn teamwork, discipline, and confidence. Now my kids have moved on from youth sports, I would like to continue serving my community in a bigger way. I'm a strong, independent thinker who believes residents deserve a real voice in city government. Palm Beach Gardens should be open, transparent, and accountable to the people who live here. Growth is coming, and that's not a bad thing. But overdevelopment without thoughtful planning is. Too many projects have been approved with not enough consideration for traffic, infrastructure, and quality of life. Anyone who drives the North Lake and PJ Boulevard knows exactly what I'm talking about. My years of leadership in the community have taught me how to listen, how to bring people together, and how to solve problems. I don't come with an agenda driven by politics or special interests. I come with a commitment to serve. I'm ready to stand up for residents, protect the quality of life, and help guide Palm Beach Gardens forward, thoughtfully, transparently, and together. Thank you for your time.
So you'll notice they share very well. They're really good with the microphone. Okay, so now we'll start the 1-minute timer, and the first question will go to Heather on your left. And this question comes from the Palm Beach Gardens Historical Society. The city is among the fastest growing in Palm Beach County, with new homes rising rapidly at Avenir, Alton, and elsewhere. Has the city grown too fast, too quickly? Is it doing a good job at allowing sensible growth without overwhelming roads and public facilities? What would you do differently?
All right, thank you so much. Palm Beach Gardens is growing very quickly, approximately 1,000 residents every year. And we do have some concerns. We have concerns that infrastructure is not put in place prior to development and growth. I would like to see us make sure that we hold off on our development slightly until our infrastructure is in place. That's a great model. It ensures that traffic doesn't get overwhelmed, and it ensures that we balance everything carefully. Do I think it's growing too fast? I don't have an opinion on that, to be honest with you. I mean, people love the city, so do I. That's why I'm here. So I would love to say that one of the things I would do differently would be to hold accountable developers as well as our city to ensure that we make sure that, to ensure that we hold everybody in line so that our infrastructure matches the development at the same time.
Well, I have another acknowledgement. Our mayor, Marcy Tinsley, has walked into the room. So, that is a great question. And, we go back into the history of the city, and Joe Russo was responsible for what's called the forbearance agreement when MacArthur dumped all the property onto the rolls at one time and put it all up for sale. And we did a structured development to make sure that it wasn't overdeveloped too quickly, too rapidly. We do have to get the infrastructure in properly. One of the mistakes I thought that the city made, and I wish I knew a way of rectifying it, we should put a north-south road on the side of the turnpike when Ballin Isles was developed. That would have alleviated some of the traffic off of North Lake Boulevard. Oh, I'm up at 15 seconds already. That is fast.
Palm Beach Gardens is a beautifully well-run city. That's why everybody wants to live here. And anyone who says that they can stop growth is not really being honest about how cities in Florida work. Florida law does not allow cities to impose development moratoriums. It's not allowed. So we cannot arbitrarily deny compliant development without risky, costly litigation. Growth itself is not the threat, it's how we manage it that matters. And when I was on council, that's why I voted for the mobility plan and the workforce housing plan. We use the tools we have deliberately and firmly to create new tools to do that and to help us control growth. We also don't live in a vacuum. We are part of a regional network, and working with the county and the state is very important when we're dealing with roads and growth. Every single intersection and road is controlled by someone other than Palm Beach Gardens. It is most dangerous.
On the growth, I think sensible growth makes a lot more sense, and also that there's too many projects have been approved without consideration for the traffic and the infrastructure. I mean, we all see what PGA and North Lake is like, and as I've made a lot of phone calls over the last few months, it's the first thing everyone's met was it's getting worse, and we need to find solutions. And with the city and the county always at loggerheads, I think it's important. I'd like to be that bridge between the new administration and the county to see if we can find solutions.
And if you pass the mic to David,
Okay.
he gets the next question. The next question comes, I have no idea who it comes from, but it also deals with growth. With all of the growth and the high cost of homes, taxes, and insurance, seniors are feeling squeezed out of Palm Beach Gardens. What will you do to protect the pocketbooks of seniors?
Well, I just became a senior, so I guess I qualify on that. There is, and this is from the state legislature, and a lot of this has got to be done through the state legislature. There is a program for seniors that are lower income to get an additional homestead exemption. So maybe popular or telling people about that particular exemption could help. The other thing is, it's a law of supply and demand, and we're at kind of loggerheads here. We've got conflicting values because we want to control growth at the same time, but the same, which means building less units, but also more units means lower costs. So maybe density bonuses to get workforce housing and that type of thing in certain areas. We did that with the Avenir project. We told them you can build this many houses, but you also have to provide 380 units of workforce housing. So it's a difficult thing. A lot of it's got to be controlled by the state, and I've got to stop.
As David said, the state is working on this situation right now in terms of increasing density in the downtown, the TOD, transit-oriented development. That's where we can put in affordable housing, and that's what was planned when I was on council. That's where the workforce housing plan sets aside space. We also, when I was on council, arranged for a grant fund to help residents meet their monthly rent payments if necessary. There's a group that will go in and actually help fix up houses so that they can be code compliant, which will help bring their insurance rates down. That was all done while I was on the city council. So looking forward, we don't know what the state's going to do, but definitely keeping lines of communications open for our seniors. The city runs a senior center, and being engaged over there and hearing their concerns is something that I'm definitely a part of.
And as Rochelle said, not sure what the state will do, but I would pick on one thing on that especially is the cost of recreational activities for the seniors as well. Is we should be promoting that and we should be trying to bring the price down, because I think it's very important that we use these awesome facilities we have, and people have stopped using them because of the price of cost of it. So I think that's something which we definitely need to look at.
Michelle's next.
No?
No, I have to answer first. That's okay, that's okay. All right, thank you. I would also echo the same, that the state is really in charge of the insurance and the taxes, as well as some of the pricing issues that we have. However, when we talk about affordable housing or attainable housing, our workforce housing is not really attainable. The AMI, the average, median income for our city is very, very high, and most seniors are not participating at that level any longer. Palm Beach Gardens has its own rent relief for its own employees. We could ask for grants to expand that to seniors, not just seniors, but maybe young families as well who are also struggling. I'd also like to see a reduction in recreation prices, especially for seniors. And I believe that the council could help in another way by bringing resources, both national and state, by communication to our senior community, helping them bridge the gap.
So the next question, yes, does go to Rochelle. And we can't seem to get away from the housing and growth issue. That's not the one. How much power does a city really have to control its growth?
Well, I kind of talked about that a little bit before. It's difficult. The state has constantly chipped away at a city's ability to regulate itself and to zone itself. 2 years ago, the Live Local Act was passed. That means a shopping center or a commercial building that is defunct, someone can come in, buy the property, and if they meet the state regulations, they can put up workforce housing that looks like and performs like anything they want it to without the city's input, to make sure that it fits the character of the neighborhood. These are the kinds of things that tie our hands as council members when it comes to actually containing growth. We also operate under the legal framework of private property rights, which I mentioned before. So if there is a piece of property and someone owns it, a developer has a right to build on it, the amount of control we have over what that development looks like is shrinking, and it's shrinking every year.
Thank you.
So
on the older developments, I really believe in smart development. I think the like 35,000 cars leave our city every day to go to work. So when that means smart development is we need to try and bring businesses in here, and that's the growth where we need to have, where we have people staying in gardens. Again, it takes away traffic from PGA and Northlake. So.
Does this go to Heather now?
Yes.
That's the wrong way.
I've got this figured out.
So I will echo the same, that the council doesn't have as much control over growth as perhaps we would like. Property rights are strong, and that's why they exist. What I'd like to see us work on is protecting our legacy businesses. These are businesses who spent 10, 20, 30, 40 years investing in our city, and there are things we can do. For example, adding an ordinance for first right of refusal when things get redeveloped, or offering incentives to developers to allow them to come back to those locations. I don't want our legacy businesses to the heart of our city. I don't want them to be lost because of redevelopment. So I think we can do things as a council. It may not stop growth, but certainly we can offer incentives to keep our businesses here and to help manage some of that growth.
I'm actually going to disagree with a little bit. The city does have broad latitude in zoning decisions that's granted by the state. That's called home rule. What Rochelle was referring to is an erosion of home rule by the legislature up in Tallahassee. But we do have a pretty broad ability to zone the way that we so desire and control density, with the exception of one thing. And that one thing is that a property owner has by right a certain right to develop a certain amount of units on that property we can't then deny them that right to develop. That's called the taking, and will cause us to get sued. And we did have one time, before I was on the council, the Albertsons, which is now where Home Goods is, we got sued over that. So with that, oh, one last thing. We used to have something called a comprehensive plan. I worked for the company that developed our comprehensive plan back in the 80s, so just a funny fact.
Thank you.
State.
The next question goes to Damien. A lot of questions on this topic. How will you pledge to support small business in the city?
How would I just, think about that one. I think that you're going to have to try and help with attainable housing, because small businesses, a lot of the people who are working there can't live in our community. So that's one of the biggest issues which is going on right now. And instead of affordable housing, I think is attainable housing is a better answer to it. Because the local businesses are the heart of our city itself, and many have been there for many, many years. But especially with the restaurant and the tourists coming in, we need our people be part of our community.
All the way down to Heather, please.
Thank you. I think I actually just touched on it just gently a moment ago, but the far and away, the thing that I've heard the most from small businesses is their issues with signage. They are unable to get the waivers and variances that larger companies and larger businesses have been able to get. I'd like to see us review our municipal code and check out what we can do for signage. Multiple businesses have asked me about signage, especially the small ones. They are the vast majority of our businesses in the city. And again, they've invested decades of time and effort and money to ensure that the city has a heart. And I don't want to lose that to something as silly as a sign. So I'd like to see us revisit that plan so that we can help those businesses.
As a small business owner, the things I'm concerned about are business tax receipts, which is basically, it used to be the occupational license. I'm also a little concerned about code enforcement. Code enforcement can go out of control, and right now our code enforcement's a little bit out of control, and we need, as a council, to work on that to make sure that code enforcement cares more about compliance than bludgeoning people. The other thing that's really important is getting permits out really quick. You know, when you get a project and you want to get it going, you should be able to get your permit. If you're substantially complete on your permit application, you should be able to get your permit in 3 to 4 days, no longer than a week. If we're taking 2 weeks to get our permits out, then we need to start looking at our permitting staff and making sure that they're efficient.
Okay, so I will start by saying I'm a trustee of the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce. I've been endorsed by both North PAC, which is the organization from the Palm Beach North Chamber, and BizPAC. I've also been endorsed by the AFL-CIO. It's a rarity to be endorsed by both labor and business. They recognize that I am the person they want to bring them to the table to solve their problems. And there are issues with code enforcement. We did beef up our process for permitting when we built the new city hall. And that, at this point, is something I would check into to make sure that see if there were any other ways that we could expedite permitting. There are certain types of projects where permitting is automatically expedited. So working with the business community is something I do on a daily basis. I sit on their government affairs committee. I attend all of their meetings and all of their breakfasts, and I interact with the business leaders across the city on a daily basis.
Thank you.
So.
This one goes to Heather. And one last question in this category, and then we'll move on to another one.
Are you sure? We haven't beaten this horse yet.
No, there are opportunities to come back, so relax. How will Palm Beach Gardens deal with the elimination of property taxes if it comes to pass?
Okay. So I've already written to the governor. I'm sure many of you have regarding my concerns. My concerns are that ad valorem taxes are approximately 35 to 36% of our city's budget right now. It's high. So what can we possibly do? I've spent 25 or so hours on our city budget, and we have a robust budget. The good news is that wants have creeped in, administrative costs have creeped in a way that is somewhat common when you have such a great budget that like our city does. The first thing I would work on, of course, is essentials first, and then wants second. So we'll start by protecting our public infrastructure, our public safety, and our parks, and then we'll move out from there, reducing across the board where we can, individual departments, not eliminating anything in particular, but in the goal of reducing overall costs.
I had the great privilege to be mayor in 2010 to 2012, when we actually had falling property values and we had to reduce our budget, and we had to do it without raising our millage rate. And we did that by basically cutting our landscaping services. We had a hiring freeze. We kept our vehicles. Our normal turnaround time for vehicles is 5 years. We turned that to 7 years. So we are going to have to look at some types of efficiencies. I'm going to say right now, I am vehemently opposed to eliminating the property tax, because then the state's going to have to try and replace that money. Otherwise, they've just defunded the police, which I don't think anyone wants to defund the police or our fire department. And the only thing that I can think of is we increase the sales tax, or the fifth wheel of Florida politics. If you're a long-time Floridian, if you say the word personal income tax, you will get pelted with tomatoes.
Okay, I'll get a little specific here for a minute. So unlike many municipalities, services such as stormwater management, solid waste collection, and many utility-related operations are funded through our millage rate, along with our police and fire, who, by the way, I have been endorsed by both. If significant property taxes were imposed by the state, the city's options would be extremely slim. To fully replace a property tax revenue through sales taxes alone would be too high of a number for us to even contemplate. So where does that money come from? You squeeze one end of the balloon, it pops out at the other, and that you would see that in the form of fees coming at you from a different way. Those services will need to be paid for. A significant portion of the budget goes to police and fire. Safety is non-negotiable in my book. So it would have to come from another area, and raising the millage rate would be the last possible option on my table for the city.
I am also totally opposed to this as well, and I think we're all trying to come up with solutions for everything, but really we don't know. We don't know until the governor comes back to us and tells us how this is all going to work, because obviously we have contracts with police and fire already in place. And again, I think it's a wait and see. As I said, it's 36% of our budget is going to get wiped off, so it's got to come from somewhere. And I think it's just a kind of wait and see what comes back then from the government.
Goes to David.
Oh, thank you.
So we're changing categories. And this one's a little problematic for me, but here we go. Your city manager is the longest serving city manager in Palm Beach County, having worked at Palm Beach Gardens since 2000. And his contract has no expiration date. Do you support the city manager continuing in that position, and how do you grade his performance over the past few years?
Ron Ferris is a talented city manager. However, when term limits were passed, he took control of the city because he had all the institutional knowledge. He's become too powerful. He has been given a discretionary spending limit of $500,000, which is more than any city in this county, and it's ridiculous. It went from $65,000 to $500,000. I spoke out against it. Recently, at a council meeting, Ron Ferris said he wasn't going to follow a city directive. I think it's time that a city council member says, if you're not following our directives, you need to resign. We'll accept your resignation right now. Somebody needs to stand up to Ron Ferris, and I believe I'm the person that will do that. Thank you.
If we'd hold our applause, please. Rochelle?
First of all, I don't think it's appropriate to rate a city manager. Palm Beach Gardens is a very well-run, fiscally sound city, and that did not happen by accident. But I understand what the responsibilities of a council member are. Council members set the vision, we pass the budgets, we interact with the residents, and then we tell the city manager to go ahead and enact that vision, and through his oversight of professional staff, under the oversight of the council, that's how the work gets done. I am not someone who believes that just because you don't see pushback on the dais and argument in public doesn't mean that there's not pushback happening behind the scenes. I met with the city manager every week when I was on council.
Thank you.
Ron Ferris has done a great job for all these years, but we have to have a succession plan in place. We gotta get ready for when he does retire, and we have great staff, but we lack collaboration, and the perception in the city is it's either Ron's way or the highway. Dealing with the county, it's constant arguments going on, and that's something which we need to change. Annexation he forced through, or tried to force through, well, instead of trying to sell it, he just basically forced his way and tried to force it through. The ice rink was another example where I really believe the residents were not informed what was going on properly, and it was kind of behind the back. It was kind of a feeling it was behind the door. So there you go.
Thank you. Our city manager is incredibly intelligent. He likes the idea of efficiency. However, I think that comes at the expense of resident voices and resident communication. There is currently no assessment tool for the city manager. I am a teacher first, I am an HR professional as well. You cannot evaluate without an assessment tool, and there has not been one. It's thoughts and feelings every April. So previous council has abdicated their authority both by increasing spending with no checks and balances, as well as abdicating their positions by passing policy decisions to him. That is not his role. It is the job of council to evaluate and rate the city manager. That is their job. And if someone isn't willing to do that, they should not be sitting on council.
And the next question starts with Rochelle. On the same topic, and I think Damien touched on this a little bit, voters in areas bordering Palm Beach Gardens voted 93% against annexing into the city after a 5-month city campaign that started without any effort to build community support. What would you have done differently?
Argued for community support. That was a debacle that should never have happened. There are small pockets within the city where annexation should be considered because they pose hazards to our first responders. Code enforcement is not the same. They get our first responders coverage, but they don't pay our taxes and they don't get to vote in the city. So there are times when annexation makes sense, but the places being annexed need to understand and want to come in to the city because they recognize that that will make their lives better. Also, I take exception to the fact that I don't want to badmouth a sitting council member, a sitting manager in public. I'm not defending what the city manager does. I'm saying I understand what council's responsibility is, and I will exercise that oversight when I am on council.
Thank you. And Damien, yes.
Yeah, on the annexation, what really should have been done, there should have been town hall meetings with the residents, and selling them of why they should be annexed, telling them about what a great fire department, what a great, police department we have here, and what comes with being part of Palm Beach Gardens. That's what should have happened in my view.
Thank you. All right, annexation should be voluntary whenever possible. We obviously should have courted residents versus them feeling as if they were being taken over. That would have been the first step. Another thing, I agree with Rochelle that our public safety takes on the bulk of care for the county administration of safety, and we do want to annex where we can to prevent them from being overburdened. One of the things that I feel we could have done much better, other than courting the residents, would be to make sure that we're accountable when things don't work out. So when things failed miserably and publicly, there should have been a feedback loop. That is what I'm aiming for, accountability. We want to know what went wrong, why it went wrong, and how we'll avoid it in the future. And right now, I don't think we're doing enough feedback to make sure that we're accountable the next time around. I'd like to see significantly more accountability and feedback where we publicly discuss what went wrong and why.
In the world of political epic failures, that annexation was it. It lost 93-7. I mean, think about that. Where do you get 93% of anybody to agree on something? But they agreed on not coming into the city of Palm Beach Gardens. It wasn't explained to them. Workshops should have been held. The people should have been talked to first. And the other thing is, before we even started this, we should have just sent out a flyer, a questionnaire, say, return postage, because stamps are expensive now. But we should have sent out, do you want to be in the city of Palm Beach Gardens? And here's the reasons why. Now, one thing that nobody's mentioned yet, and because of the lack of time, is we have an interlocal agreement with county fire. And county and the police. So emergency services they get without being in the city, because that's part of our agreement. The other thing though is they may wait 3 weeks before they get a sheriff out there for something that's non-emergency, and my stop time is up.
Okay, sticking with the same subject, but a different slant on issues already talked about. Our city manager was given the ability to spend over $500,000 at his discretion without council approval several years ago. Can each of you speak on your perception of what the role is for the council versus the city manager in making decisions on how taxpayer money is spent?
Personally, $500,000 I think was out of control. I know he wanted $1 million. 500,000. I mean, the county. I did some research on this. I believe the county gets $250,000 in discretion, and the problem with such a high amount is that when Ron is replaced, does that mean the new manager we're going to give him 500,000, or are we going to give him less? I think it was too much of money and too much of taxpayers' money should have been 250,000.
Heather?
No, Heather.
All right, the role of the city manager is very simple. He's an operations director. That is his job. The role of council is a governance director. Their job is to create and enforce policy. There should not be any intermixing of these two roles. You have a council, manager, city plan. That is what our code says, that's what our charter says, and that is what we should be following. However, I do not feel we are. In regards to this spending, when it comes to negotiation, the first rule is to always ask for more than you want. He wanted $1 million because he wanted 500,000, and that's exactly what he got. The council did not do a good enough job negotiating and keeping him in place. They could have also just said no. And right now, I don't think our council has done that. I need to bring back a few teeth to our council to help out. And again, it's not his job to create policy. His job is to operate the city.
I went to that council meeting where that was approved and spoke against it. Our previous discretionary spending limit was $65,000. To bring it up to $500,000, you look at other cities. I do work for the city of Delray Beach. I'm one of their environmental consultants. Their discretionary spending is $65,000. If my project goes over $65,000, I've got to go in front of their city council and tell them why I'm going over $65,000 and get their approval of it. The real big problem is Ron Ferris can spend lots and lots and lots of money, and the city council has no idea what he's spending it on. This has got to stop, and I hope that every person on this panel will work to get that reduced to, I think, 100,000, not even lower.
So I'm going to correct some misconceptions because I was on that council. That decision was made during COVID, okay? We had 8 projects that were in process at the time that were approved and in the budget. It is not spending that that nobody has control over. The council approved the budget. We told the city manager, make this budget happen. COVID hit. The projects were in the midst. Prices, we had 2 hurricanes. Prices were going through the roof. We couldn't get supplies and we couldn't get workers. We needed to allow the city manager to grab what he could, when he could, to get those projects finished, and we're the only city that did that, and other cities still haven't gotten their buildings done, and we did it without raising taxes. So it's a bunch of baloney that he has carte blanche with that. The budget, when David was on council, was around 100 million. We're a $300 million budget, and he's entitled to now by law a 0.25%.
Thank you. The next question goes to, we start with Heather. And we have a whole slew of a new topic. How do you envision Palm Beach Gardens 5 years from now? And talks about development, recreational, environment, and infrastructure.
All of that in 1 minute? Could you repeat that just so I can write it down, please?
Timekeeper, could we go to 2 minutes for this question?
Could you repeat it?
Okay, could we just repeat it so I can?
Sure.
Thank you.
How do you envision Palm Beach Gardens 5 years from now in the areas of development, recreation, environment, and infrastructure?
Okay, I'm going to do my best. They're probably not going to be in order. So in regards to the environment, this I'll tie into development. One of the things I'd like to see is us follow our city's comprehensive plan when it comes to open space. The open space element is supposed to be for active and passive recreation for residents. Right now, open space is currently being defined along the lines of drainage ditches and medians that have been included. No one's recreating in a drainage ditch, and no one is picnicking in a median. I'd like to see that stopped. Our environment, of course, is very important. We have some wonderful plans already in place for reducing greenhouse gases and being more efficient. All of that I love and would love to keep. In regards to development, I've already mentioned that I'd like to focus on some redevelopment plans. Very little of our green space that is around is left. It's already pre-planned, there's already buildings going in, they're already designed, you can go to the city's website and you can find them. That's not what I'm going to be able to control. I'll be able to help with redevelopment when people are coming in and trying to sell off their properties and new companies are coming in. I'd like to, like I said, support our small businesses and ensure they have a first right of refusal or create some kind of protection for them to be able to come back. In regards to recreation, I really feel we need to balance our pay-to-play sports and our free, open, accessible spaces. For those that don't know, that's how I got here. It started in the park. I came to protect a park. I spent 1.5 years doing it and I lost. And I don't want that to happen to another city park or another city space. I want to ensure that recreation is balanced, free, open, and accessible for families, for those that are seniors, and of course, pay-to-play options in our beautiful facilities.
Well, 2 minutes to go into the environment. I'm going to give an anniversary to y'all. February 10th, 1986, I got my job with the Florida Department of Environmental Recreation, and I've been very concerned about the environment. Heather touched on our Cool City initiative. I'm the one that pushed that. And not only did it cut down our greenhouse gases, it saved the city $500,000 a year. That was a wonderful thing to do. We rezoned the Waxahachie Slough. I will say that because I am so proud of it until the cows come home. And there used to be cows on PJ Boulevard too, so they won't come home anytime soon. We also have Frenchman's Forest. I don't know if you know about that. That's on Prosperity Farms. That's a beautiful natural area, and they actually do prescribed burns over there too. So infrastructure, we just need to make sure that we plan our infrastructure properly, which basically is roads and water drainage, which I happen to be an expert in. Water drainage is one of my things. And when I was on the council, we complied with the natural pollutant elimination discharge system permit that every city must maintain by going out and checking all of our water drainage systems. We also have a canal maintenance program that we need to do. And something that involves environment and water that I'm very proud of is I'm responsible for our ordinance that prevents commercial fertilizer being put within 20 feet of a water body, which of course causes nutrient overloading and then causes that water body to go eutrophic, which means without oxygen, which means basically it smells really bad. And so, what was the last one on that? There was infrastructure, environment,
recreation.
and recreation. One of the things, and it's been touched on in this forum, that we need to do, because our recreation costs are getting a little bit too high, and we're no longer, oh, I gotta stop. So after the meeting, ask me about recreation.
Okay. Up and down. So, just to mention, since we're on water, I am the vice chair of the Palm Beach County's Water Task Force. So dealing with water around the county on a regional basis is something that I am involved with. By the end of my term, I would be most proud to have helped Palm Beach Gardens continue moving forward without losing what makes it special, without losing our character. That means ensuring that the long-range plans that are already improved, including the mobility plan and the workforce housing plan, are implemented thoughtfully and as intended, so that growth is guided, infrastructure keeps pace, and traffic and public safety impacts are addressed, and established neighborhoods are protected. I want to leave the city fiscally strong with core services protected. When I was on council, we lowered the millage rate twice, and it was lowered twice more immediately after I left. So keeping us fiscally sound is very important, and I would want residents to feel comfortable and confident that their voices are being heard, that city council expressed real oversight, and that decisions were made deliberately, not reactively. If we maintain Gardens as a safe, well-managed, financially disciplined city that is true to its character while continuing to grow responsibly, that would be an accomplishment that I would like to stand behind.
As I talked to a lot of residents in the last few months, one of the biggest things that comes up all the time is overdevelopment, and which, you know, is a huge topic for a lot of people. And for smart development, not overdevelopment. You know, again, we need to build small business so we can keep our residents working in the city itself. Recreational. We have probably some of the best recreational parks in the state. I personally was obviously involved in the soccer program. District Park, not alone, is just one of the best in the state. It's something we should be really, really proud of. It also generates a ton of money into the actual community as well, because there's tournaments held there. So a lot of small businesses, restaurants do very, very well, as well as hotels. And again, our recreational is second to none. But the pickleball courts in the adults as well. It's not just the kids. On infrastructure, what residents were always bringing was, I would love to, in the, let's say the 3 years I will be on city council, I would love to get some kind of solution in, say, 3 years time, we fixed or we got better at PGA and North Lake Boulevard, because that is the biggest complaint that residents have. We got to come up with some kind of solution, be open-minded, and bring in the county, just sit down and see what we can work out.
Thank you. We're going back to 1 minute. And for this question, we will go to David. David, what role will advisory boards have in your administration?
I almost feel like that question is planted. When I was on the council, we had very active, and there's some members here that were on advisory boards, very active advisory boards. Matter of fact, Eric, you were chairman of the Arts and Public Places Board. I think we need to strengthen those boards. They're not meeting enough. Our Park and Recreation Advisory Board has met once in the last 5 years, and that was just to reorganize. Meanwhile, we've done a skate, we've done a ice rink, we've done a field house, we redid the gym, we did pickleball courts, we've done all of these programs, but we didn't have any input from the advisory board. When I was on the council, I was the liaison, which we no longer have liaisons to the advisory boards, for Parks and Recreation. We designed PGA National Park, and it became beautiful. There's Frisbee golf there because of the Rec Advisory Board. So I've got to stop now, but there's a lot more I have to say about that. Let's strengthen those advisory boards.
Rochelle?
I'm with David on that. I think we need to strengthen our advisory boards, and that comes from the community. I think as we move forward with the advisory boards, we have to make sure that there are guardrails in place so that the people who serve on them understand what it is that they're doing and that they have some experience in the area that they are applying to be on an advisory board for, because they're complex issues that we're dealing with at the city. But absolutely 100%, we need more resident involvement, more advisory board involvement in some of the decisions that are being made.
I agree 100%. We have to have stronger advisory boards. I think getting the right people is also very, very important. One thing though, I think there's people who are on these advisory boards feel sometimes that they're not actually listened to, and that's one thing which I think we got to change. I think we have to do the workshops or the advisory boards should be what residents want, not what staff wants, and they need to be listened to.
Thank you. Pass it to Heather, please.
Thank you. I'm actually going to disagree somewhat. It is a great service by residents who offer to sit on these advisory boards, but they are not a replacement for transparency and open communication in our city. Workshops are imperative to bring back. I've been going to council meetings for 20 months, have yet to see a single workshop. So resident voices want to be heard. They want to know what's going on. I'd like to see these meetings, these advisory boards recorded by video and posted immediately online for residents who cannot attend. Further, the budget meeting should absolutely be workshopped fully. I did make that suggestion to current council, and they did make that request a couple of months ago. These are things that cannot be replaced. You must make sure that resident voices are heard, not just advisory boards. They work in tandem, and right now we are missing the residents.
Next question is Rochelle's. This isn't, I'm not sure, I think it's 2 questions, but opinion on bike lanes on heavy traffic roads. Is that a safety concern, and will it materially reduce traffic? And then there's a statement, vision, zero opinion. Are those 2 different questions?
Yeah, the Vision Zero plan is something that is being promoted
And
by
if I
the,
may interrupt you, is 1 minute sufficient for, if it's more than 1 question, is 1 minute sufficient?
Yeah, it's probably, I guess it's sufficient.
1 minute then,
It's
please.
yeah, repeat the question.
Oh.
Maybe I won't, maybe I won't.
So your opinion on bike lanes on heavy traffic roads, is it and then the word safety with a question mark, will it materially reduce traffic? Then there's the statement, vision, zero opinion.
well, I don't think bike lanes were intended to reduce traffic. They were intended to make it safer for bikers who are using the roads anyway. Vision Zero is a national program. The MPO, the Metropolitan Planning, Regional Transportation Planning organization here in the county has set Vision Zero as a goal. No accidents on the roads with bikes. So highlighting where those lanes are, where bikes can go, but it's still incumbent upon all of us to pay attention and make sure you check in your rearview mirror before you change lanes. But it does make the roads safer, and the roads get a little bit wider usually when those bike lanes are put in. So I think it's a safety advantage to have them. The bikers are not gonna stop riding, but as far as the other part of the question, it doesn't seem to drive with that part.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I agree. Yeah, bicycle lanes are obviously, very important. My wife is a cyclist, so I hear about it all the time. So bike lanes are the more the merrier. I did want to, on that though, I do want to bring up on some of these e-bikes which are also going around, flying around, that I would like to get some control over some of those, and especially with the scooters with the kids, these electric scooters with the kids, is just, I'd like to see City Council do something about that, because it is really, really dangerous, and unfortunately, some of these kids are getting hurt, and adults are getting hurt. So I've already got hit twice, so I think that's also important.
It's a relay.
We're a relay.
All right, so the Vision Zero safety plan, I have no concerns with. It's, I think, a wonderful plan, and it's been supported by our council. In regards to bike lanes and safety concerns, I'd like to bring up something and kind of mesh it together. This summer, I had foot surgery and I was on an e-scooter. It is very challenging to utilize certain sidewalks in our city and, of course, bike lanes. We have issues with people parking on sidewalks, blocking lanes. That affects bicycles, it affects wheelchairs, it affects other mobility devices. I'd like to see us go back and look at our ordinances and see what we can do, other than just improving things like bike lanes. I'd like to see us go back and see if we can figure out parking issues so that people don't have to go into the street with a stroller or a wheelchair or a bicycle if they don't want to, so that we can prevent those injuries. And that's really all I had.
I'm probably the only council member in city history that's ridden to a council meeting on a bike. I am an avid biker. I go everywhere on the bike. I go to the pickleball courts on the bike. I used to ride my bicycle to work when I worked off of North Lake Boulevard. One thing is, I'm a big supporter of bike lanes. I'm a big supporter, it's healthy, you're not creating any pollution, and you're not adding to the traffic issue, generally speaking, unless the bike lane's really crowded, which I've never seen. One thing I'd like though, as far as safety of the bike lanes, have you ever been driving on a road and all of a sudden, rah, 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 because you've gone over that kind of grid pattern? Maybe we should put that on the bike lanes, so that if a driver's driving and he's going over into the bike lane, rah, 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 and he'll know to move over a little bit. That might make it a little bit safer.
I'm just looking at the clock. I'm just looking at the clock to see if I have time for 2 more questions instead of 1. Let's try our luck. How about that? And I have a good last question, so I need to find another. This question starts with Damien. How do you plan to address the current lack of transparency within our city government?
Workshops. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for. I apologize. Workshops and get residents involved in workshops. So we have a clue, we have the residents making decisions for what we want in the city, and not the city staff making that decision. I think it's super important that there's a lot of upset people out there, especially with traffic and stuff like that. They want to get involved. We just need to get them involved so we can get them on these boards and help us set what we want to see what our city looks like in the future.
Yep. Always.
This is my prime point of my campaign. The lack of transparency is a major problem for me. Disclosure is not transparency. Disclosure is providing the documents. Transparency is ensuring that residents understand that information, and that is what is currently lacking. We do need workshops. The city used to hold 2 workshops and 2 council meetings a month. We are down to a single council meeting despite our rapid growth and increased population. Those need to return at minimum 1 workshop a full week or 2 ahead of time, so not just residents, but council has time to review the information and research. That is incredibly important to me. I have researched for the last 20 months, multiple Freedom of Information Act requests, and I have found that it takes time to get those. So 2 or 3 days ahead is not enough just to have an agenda posted. We need to ensure that residents and council have time to actually examine the materials and reach out to residents and community members.
We used to have workshops on everything. When we designed the train center, we had multiple charrettes. The Alton project, which was known as the Brigger property back in those days, we had, I think, 6 months of meetings, at least once a month, to get input from the residents on what they wanted to see on that property when it was developed. So we did have a lot of workshops, and that is a good way of getting transparency. The other thing is, maybe the city staff should answer letters. I wrote a letter to the city, very reasonably written, about the menorah that was taken down. I received no response. No response from the city. So there's no feedback from the city. And I actually asked, I said it because it was a legal thing, I asked the city attorney, I'm not a lawyer, tell me where I'm wrong. I think that deserved a response, and I got none. I think that we need to demand as a city council that staff answers reasonable inquiries from our citizens.
So going back when I was on council the first time, we did have workshops, we did have charrettes, and we did have information sessions, and I would definitely be pushing for more of those, especially on the consequential projects. Any project that has the potential to change the city, change a neighborhood in a way that is very significant should definitely have a workshop or a charrette with it. The last project that I worked on where there was considerable outreach, and I forced it with the developer from day one, was the building of the hospital in Alton. When they first came into that meeting and proposed the project, and I started asking questions about staffing, housing, and what have you heard from the residents. And they went out, and we kept pushing them to go out and do more and more. And it ultimately came to the point where they changed the location of the hospital on the site because of the interaction that they had with residents. So it is important. It's up to the individual council members to
Thank you.
make sure they push that.
And back to Heather. Last question, and I thought this was a great question to end on. So kudos to the author. It wasn't me. On behalf of my newly 18-year-old son who couldn't be here tonight, what are your thoughts or plans to encourage upcoming generations of Palm Beach Gardens residents to get involved in their city's government and the future?
So in the ice rink project, there were many, many young people who joined us to come and speak at City Hall, to get their 3 minutes to express their concerns, their upset reactions, of course, to losing something that was very valuable to them. And I watched council members ignore their statements. No responses, no communication. Some council members responded, some did not. We saw an overly large police presence at that meeting because there were teenagers that were skateboarders. That is not welcoming to teenagers or young adults who are just voting, and that should change. I give a lot of credit to Stet News, working with students from Riviera Beach to bring them into council meetings to learn how to understand what's going on and share with their friends. And I've already told them that I'd love to see that happen in Gardens. We have some great kids at Gardens High School ready to participate, and I'd like to see that kind of program come to the city as well.
Thank you. Dave.
One thing that we need to do as council members, and I don't know if they do it still, but we did it then, we went out to the schools. We participated in the schools. I swore in, I think, 10 mayors of BizTown, or Exchange City, which is a program that the cities run. I have to admit, one of the best ones was my daughter, who was the mayor of Exchange City at Timber Trace. And we participated. I gave multiple speeches at Duncan Middle School, at Howell Watkins School, on city government. We actually have a program at the League of Cities where we were going into the schools to explain how city government works, because a lot of people don't know about that. And the high schools, so it's a minor thing, but I sat in I don't know how many homecoming parades, and reached out to the kids at that. I was on the Magnet Advisory Board at Palm Beach Gardens High School. That's a great way for council members to get involved with it and find out what the needs of the schools are.
So it's interesting, David mentioned the League of Cities. So the League of Cities is 39 municipalities all coming together to work on their joint problems and discuss the issues. And League of Cities has a program that is a youth mayor's council program that is being implemented in many of the cities across the state. It is something that I have an interest to do, would have to get buy-in from the other council members to institute it, because it would be up to the current year's mayor to be the liaison to the Youth Advisory Council. And you can either do it middle school and high school. And you spend some of your time where they shadow you, where they get to see what's actually going on. As a member of Leadership Palm Beach County and on the board, I am also working with their GROW program, which is the high school leadership program, and Civics and Government Day was the committee that I was on. I've also spoken at Dwyer as part of a women's leadership initiative. So being out there with the kids in the schools is something 100% support and will do.
Thank you. Thank you. Damien?
I help run the special needs program in over District Park with over 70 special needs kids. We hold it twice a year. One thing I've realized over time, we also have high school kids who are their buddies, and we team up the buddies with the players themselves. What I've realized over time is that we were able to pick out what we call super buddies, the kids who are more into it and who could really make a difference, and we made them super buddies. And what I learned from it is that if you ask kids to get involved, they will get involved. That's all you need to do. I think just reaching out and going to leaders who are, community leaders who are over these kids, they can tell you who the good ones are, and they're the best ones you can get them involved in the community.
You keep it.
So you keep it, yes. And now for closing statements, 2 minutes. And we will start with you, Damien.
I'm going to make this brief. Thank you to the League of Women Voters of Palm Beach County and the Historic Society of Palm Beach Gardens for hosting tonight's debate. I'm running for City Council in the hopes of continuing my service and dedication to the community. With my many years of experience, I offer a new, fresh perspective to ensure local government remains accountable to all residents. Plus, I have a deepening desire to give back to the place that I've called home for 30 years. Thank you.
No, it's yours.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for your thoughtful questions this evening. They reflect how deeply people really care about the city. And if I sound serious on some of them, it's because they're serious issues and they really matter. Our quality of life here in the city really matters. It's my home too. And I want other families to have their lives and their children's lives be affected as positively as mine was living here in the city. I also know that it's not always what you know, it's who you know, it's what your involvement is outside of the city that enables you to get the job done sometimes. And it's great to say, I want to fix this, but knowing how to fix it and who to help you fix it is what comes with the experience and institutional knowledge that I bring back to the council. So I'm running to bring steady, experienced leadership back to the council that's grounded in integrity, institutional knowledge, and respect for professional expertise. So if you want a council member that knows the city and its regional partners, has navigated it through some of the most difficult times, and is ready to get back to work on day one, then I respectfully ask for your support and your vote.
I have another former mayor to acknowledge. Mike Martino has joined us. Okay, and my closing statement. Thank you all for coming. This is a really packed room. It's really nice to see so many people interested in what's going on in our city. I'm the guy that's got the engineering and the science background. And I've used that in the past. It makes me think in a different way. I can change my paradigms very easily. If I'm presented with facts, I'll change my mind. I did that a lot when I was on the city council. But that's very important to have in a council member, somebody that will listen to you. I've always been accessible to the public. That's the way to really be transparent. If you write me an email, or you make me a phone call, or you give me a text, I'll answer you, I'll listen to you. One thing I will say for everybody on this council, I'm speaking for everybody, 1 minute was not enough time to answer all those questions. It really wasn't. There's a lot more detail that we could have gone into if we had 5, 10, 15 minutes to answer it. And if you ask me about traffic, we could have been here for a couple of hours. So I'm sure that you probably have better things to do than hear me talk for a couple of hours. And I've always said that giving a microphone to a politician is often a mistake. The other thing is, I'm going to quote a man I really loved and admired, the late Ed Isi, when he told me there's an old Lebanese statement, be brief or you will be invited back. So I'll sit down.
I also want to thank the Historical Society of Palm Beach Gardens and the League of Women Voters for their work here, as well as thanking you all for attending and asking these questions. Our city stands at an important juncture. It's not defined by where we have been or what titles we've held in the past. It's about where we're going, a future looking forward, leading with transparency and accountability and, of course, integrity. As I said, for 20 months, I've shown up consistently at nearly every meeting to ensure that I knew what was going on, to ask questions, to speak with council members, developers, former community leaders, to ensure that I understood what I was getting into. And I know that neighbors want a stronger voice in our city. They want a hand in shaping our city's future. A resident-first approach is what I am promising. An opportunity for residents to come, to hear, to learn, to grow. That is what transparency is, ensuring that everyone understands the processes and the materials, again, not just disclosure. It is incredibly important to me to make sure that we support our community, and I want to ensure that we understand that governance is not the same as operations. Governance is the policy-making procedure. Operations is where your experience matters, and we are not operators, we are governors. That is the role of city council. And I believe that I am here for the same reason everybody is. We care about the city, we want to do what's right by our residents, and I am promising to do that. Thank you.
Can we clap now?
Wait a minute. Oh, my humor, oh, please forgive me. Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, here's your chance to applaud with gusto these wonderful candidates. Thank you to the candidates, the volunteers, and to you in the audience for your active and respectful participation tonight. I remind you that the views that were expressed were those of the candidates and not of the League of Women Voters, and sponsorship of this event is not an endorsement of any candidate. Please remember, though, that in order to have the government of your choosing, you must vote in the March 10th election. Thank you all, and good night.
Nice meeting you. Great job. Yes. What a success. What a great success you had.
I'm proud of you.
Very good.
I'm really proud.
Well, I'm gonna have to do some.